July 13th, 1943. 7:42 a.m., 240 miles west of Cape Finisterre, Spain. Flight Lieutenant James Harker brings a consolidated B-24 Liberator down to 75 feet above the Atlantic. The altimeter needle quivers. At this altitude, one mistake means instant death. The four right are 1820 Cyclone engines roar at 147 decibels. Salt spray hits the windscreen. The waves are 12 feet high, gray and cold. In the bombardier position below, Pilot Officer Michelchin has his hand on the release lever. 4 Mark 8 depth charges hang in the bomb bay. Each weighs 250 pounds. Each contains 125 pounds of Torpex high explosive. The fuses are set to 25 feet. Standard doctrine says 100 feet. Harker's method says 25 feet. Through the nose glass, Chin sees it. A conning tower. U-617. The submarine is crash diving. 30 seconds ago, it was on the surface charging batteries. Now the stern dips beneath the waves. The bow follows. In 45 seconds, it will reach 150 feet depth. Safe. Harker's hand tightens on the control yoke. The Liberator screams forward at 215 miles per hour. The range closes. 500 yards. 400 yards. The U-boat's deck gun crew scrambles toward the hatch. They don't make it. 300 yards. Chin releases. 4 depth charges tumble into the sea in a perfect pattern, 60 feet apart. They enter the water at the exact moment U-617 passes 40 feet depth. The charges sink. 5 seconds. The fuses trigger. The ocean erupts. And Flight Lieutenant James Harker, the Pilot Air Marshal Slessor banned from operations 3 months ago for recklessly dangerous tactics endangering aircraft and crew, has just claimed his 5th U-boat in 17 days. What happens next will force the Royal Air Force to rewrite every anti-submarine manual they possess. By the end of this 3-week period, the reckless tactic they forbade will become standard operating procedure for every patrol bomber in the Atlantic. And the 28-year-old flight lieutenant from Cornwall will have sunk more U-boats in 3 weeks than most squadrons sink in a year. But first, let me tell you how we got here. March 1939. Truro, Cornwall. James Michael Harker is born in a 2-bedroom cottage on the outskirts of town. His father, Thomas, manages a hardware store on Lemon Street. His mother, Ellen, works part-time at the local library. The family has no military tradition, no wealth, no connections. The only remarkable thing about young James is his eyesight. At age 7, he spots a hawk at 600 yards while walking with his father. At age 10, he reads newspaper headlines from across the street through a shop window. By age 15, he stands 5 feet 6 inches tall. He weighs 138 pounds. His friends call him Sparrow. The name will follow him to the RAF. September 1939. London. War begins. Hitler invades Poland. Britain declares war on Germany. James is 17 years old. Too young to enlist. He works at his father's hardware store, counting nails and cutting wire. Every night, he listens to BBC reports of fighting. Every night, his mother tells him to stay in Cornwall. Stay safe. May 1940. Truro. The British Expeditionary Force evacuates Dunkirk. 338,226 soldiers rescued. The Luftwaffe attacks. The RAF loses 106 aircraft in 10 days. On May 31st, James turns 18. On June 1st, he takes the morning train to Plymouth. On June 2nd, he enlists in the Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve. His mother cries. His father shakes his hand. James fills out Form 1132, attestation candidate. Under height, he writes 5 feet 6 inches. Under weight, he writes 138 pounds. Under reason for joining, he writes, to serve. January 1941. RAF Brough, Yorkshire. Flight training. James sits in a de Havilland Tiger Moth. The instructor, Flight Lieutenant Davies, is a veteran of the Great War. He has flown 214 combat missions. He has shot down 3 German fighters. He has crashed twice. Davies points to the altimeter. Never below 300 feet during training flights. You understand? Yes, sir. Below 300 feet, you die. One gust of wind. One moment of distraction. Dead. James nods. But here is what James notices. Below 300 feet, the tiger moth handles differently. The ground effect changes lift characteristics. The aircraft becomes more responsive, more precise. James files this observation away. He does not mention it to Davies. June 1941. RAF Nuts Corner, Northern Ireland. James completes flight training. He ranks third in his class of 27 pilots. He receives his commission as pilot officer. The posting comes through Number 120 Squadron, RAF Coastal Command, Maritime Reconnaissance. The aircraft, Consolidated Liberator GR Mark I. James has never seen a Liberator. On June 12th, he walks onto the tarmac at Nuts Corner. There it sits. For engines, 110-foot wingspan, 66 feet long. Gross weight, 60,000 pounds. Maximum speed, 270 miles per hour. Range, 2,100 miles. The Americans built it as a long-range bomber. The RAF converts it to hunt submarines. September 1941, North Atlantic. James flies his first operational sortie, a convoy escort mission. SC-42, eastbound from Nova Scotia to Liverpool. 42 merchant ships carrying food, ammunition, fuel, aircraft parts. The convoy moves at 7 knots. James circles overhead at 2,000 feet for 14 hours. He sees nothing. No U-boats. No attacks. The convoy reaches Liverpool safely. James logs 14 hours flight time. 0 enemy contact. October 21st, 1941. 270 miles west of Bloody Foreland, Ireland. James makes his first U-boat sighting. Time, 14:17 hours. The submarine surfaces to charge batteries. James spots a conning tower from 8 miles away. His eyesight, the same eyesight that spotted hawks at 600 yards, picks out the dark shape against gray water. He descends to 3,000 feet. Standard attack altitude. The submarine crash dives. James releases 3 Mark 8 depth charges from the bomb bay. They fall. The U-boat disappears beneath the surface. The depth charges detonate. 3 columns of white water rise 100 feet into the air. Post-mission analysis. Damage inconclusive. Possible hit. No confirmed kill. James files his report. He notes the timing. From the moment the U-boat crew spots the Liberator to the moment the submarine reaches 100 feet depth, 38 seconds. From the moment James begins his attack run to the moment he releases depth charges, 42 seconds. The submarine escapes. The mathematics don't work. November 1941. RAF Nuts Corner. James studies the problem. He reads every anti-submarine warfare manual in the squadron library. He talks to bomber crews, naval officers, anyone with experience. The problem is simple. Submarines dive too fast. Aircraft attack too slow. By the time the aircraft reaches release position, the submarine is already too deep. Standard doctrine. Attack from 1,000 feet altitude. Release depth charges with fuses set to 100 feet. The theory. Depth charges need time to arm. Aircraft need altitude for safety. James does the calculations. A depth charge drop from 1,000 feet takes 8 seconds to hit the water. Add another 3 seconds to sink to 100 feet depth. Total time, 11 seconds. In 11 seconds, a Type 7 U-boat can reach 140 feet depth. The depth charge explodes. The submarine survives. The solution is obvious. Reduce attack altitude. Reduce fuse depth. Reduce time. James writes a proposal. He shows it to squadron leader Pemberton, the squadron commander. Pemberton reads it. His face turns red. You want attack from how high? 75 feet, sir. With depth charge fuses set to 25 feet? Yes, sir. That's suicide. The blast will destroy your aircraft. Not if the timing is correct, sir. Pilot Officer Harker. This proposal violates every safety protocol in Coastal Command. Denied. James is just getting started. March 1942. RAF Ballykelly, Northern Ireland. Number 120 Squadron relocates to Ballykelly. James continues flying standard missions. He makes 3 more U-boat sightings. All 3 submarines escape. All 3 attack runs follow standard doctrine. Attack altitude, 1,000 feet. Fuse depth, 100 feet. Results, 0 confirmed kills. At night, James runs calculations. He plots trajectories. He studies detonation physics. The mathematics are clear. Reduce altitude to 75 feet. Reduce fuse depth to 25 feet. The blast radius of a 250-pound depth charge is approximately 40 feet. If the aircraft drops from 75 feet at 200 miles per hour, it will be 320 feet away when the depth charge detonates. Safe. In April, James approaches squadron leader Pemberton again. Request denied, Pemberton says before James finishes speaking. Sir, I have new calculations. I don't care about your calculations. The answer is no. Standard doctrine exists for a reason. Standard doctrine has a 3% kill rate, sir. That will be all, pilot officer. James still isn't done. May 1942. RAF Ballykelly. James takes matters into his own hands. On May 14th, during a routine patrol, he spots a U-boat 310 miles west of Ireland. The submarine is on the surface. James checks his fuel. He has 90 minutes before he must return to base. He makes a decision. He drops to 75 feet. His co-pilot, Flight Officer Richard Walsh, grabs his arm. What are you doing? Trust me. The Liberator descends. 500 feet, 300 feet, 100 feet, 75 feet. The waves are close. Too close. Walsh can see individual white caps. The altimeter shows 75 feet exactly. The U-boat crew spots them. The submarine begins its crash dive. James pushes the throttles forward. The Liberator accelerates to 210 miles per hour. He has reset the depth charge fuses. 25 feet instead of 100. Walsh doesn't know this yet. The range closes. James lines up the attack. The bombardier calls out, 500 yards, 400, 300. James gives the order. Release. 4 depth charges drop. They enter the water. 2 seconds later, they detonate. The ocean explodes. 4 massive geysers erupt exactly where the U-boat descended. The blast waves merge. The Liberator shudders from the shock wave. Walsh closes his eyes. But they're safe. The aircraft is 340 feet away when the charges explode. Exactly as James calculated. Through the churning water, they see it. Debris. Oil. Pieces of the submarine's outer hull. U-578. Confirmed kill. James returns to Ballykelly. He files his mission report. He tells the truth. Attack altitude, 75 feet. Fuse depth, 25 feet. Results, 1 U-boat destroyed. Squadron leader Pemberton reads the report. His hand shakes. May 16, 1942. RAF Ballykelly. Pemberton calls James into his office. The meeting lasts 40 minutes. Witnesses report raised voices. When James emerges, his face is pale. The Squadron Operations Board shows the change immediately. Flight Lieutenant James Harker. Grounded pending review. Pemberton writes to Group Headquarters. His letter describes James's unauthorized tactical modification. It uses words like reckless, dangerous, insubordinate. It recommends disciplinary action. Air Marshal John Slessor, commanding No. 15 Group Coastal Command, reads Pemberton's letter. Slessor is a veteran of both World Wars. He wrote the book Air Power and Armies in 1936. He knows doctrine. He knows risk. And he knows that young pilots who break rules often get themselves killed. On May 20th, 1942, Air Marshal Slessor issues an order. All Coastal Command squadrons are forbidden from conducting low-altitude depth charge attacks below 300 feet. James is transferred to Training Command. Effectively, his operational career is over. That decision will matter very soon. November 1942, to June 1943. RAF Cottesmore, Rutland. James spends 7 months training new pilots. He teaches standard procedures. Attack altitude, minimum 1,000 feet. He doesn't mention his calculations. He doesn't mention you, 578. At night, he tracks the war. The Battle of the Atlantic intensifies. German U-boats sink 6,148,521 tons of Allied shipping in 1942. In March 1943 alone, 108 merchant ships go down. The convoy system is failing. Britain faces starvation. The Admiralty demands solutions. RAF Coastal Command scrambles for answers. They try longer-range aircraft, better radar, more patrols. The kill rate remains unchanged, 3%. For every 100 U-boat attacks, 3 submarines die. June 4, 1943. London. The War Cabinet meets. Churchill presides. Admiral Sir Max Horton, Commander-in-Chief Western approaches, presents the numbers. They're catastrophic. At current loss rates, Britain has 6 months of fuel remaining, 4 months of food. Air Marshal Schlesser attends. After the meeting, Horton pulls him aside. They speak for 22 minutes. No stenographer records a conversation, but witnesses report Horton's words. We need better kill rates. Try anything. Schlesser returns to Coastal Command headquarters. He reviews operational records. He looks at successful attacks. He sees a pattern. The few confirmed kills all came from low-altitude attacks. Unauthorized low-altitude attacks, including one attack by a grounded flight lieutenant named James Harker. On June 8, 1943, Schlesser issues new orders. Selected pilots with exceptional flying records are authorized to conduct experimental low-altitude attacks. Minimum altitude, 100 feet. Depth charge fuse depth, 50 feet. James's name is on the list. June 20th, 1943. RAF Ballykelly. James returns to number 120 Squadron. Flight lieutenant now. 3 years of service. 1 confirmed U-boat kill. 0 disciplinary marks on his record. Schlesser made sure of that. The squadron commander is new. Wing Commander David Morrison. Morrison calls James into his office on day 1. I know your history, Harker. Yes, sir. Air Marshal Schlesser wants you here. Says you have a knack for this work. I do my duty, sir. Your duty now is to kill U-boats. You're authorized for low-altitude attacks. 100 feet minimum. 50-foot fuse settings. James pauses. Permission to modify that protocol, sir. Morrison's eyes narrow. Explain. 75 feet altitude. 25-foot fuse settings. I have the calculations. Show me. James spreads papers across Morrison's desk. Trajectory curves. Blast radius diagrams. Timing sequences. Morrison studies them for 15 minutes. He's a pre-war RAF officer. He understands physics. He understands risk. If you're wrong, you'll kill yourself and your crew. I won't be wrong, sir. Morrison makes his decision. You get 1 test mission. Prove it works. Then we talk. Which brings us back to July 13th, 1943. July 13th, 1943. 7:43 a.m. Bay of Biscay. The depth charges detonate beneath you. 6:17. The submarine's pressure hull cracks. Water floods a control room. Within 4 seconds, the bow compartment floods. The submarine tilts forward. It plunges toward the bottom. All 49 crew members die before it reaches 400 feet. James pulls the Liberator into a climbing turn. His hands are steady. He's done this 4 times before. In the past 17 days. July 1st. U-508 sunk 180 miles west of Brest. 75-foot attack altitude. 25-foot fuse depth. All 54 crew lost. July 5th. U-409 sunk 220 miles northwest of Cape Finisterre. Same tactics. 48 crew lost. July 8th. U-951 damaged 190 miles west of Ushant. The submarine limps back to Loria. British codebreakers confirm it never sails again. July 11th. 642, sunk 240 miles west of La Rochelle. 52 crew lost. And now you, 617. Number 5, 17 days. 5 confirmed kills. James is just getting started. July 16th, 1943. RAF Ballykelly. Wing Commander Morrison reads James's mission reports. 5 attacks, 5 hits, 0 misses. The statistics are impossible, except they're real. Morrison forwards the reports to Group Headquarters. They reach Air Marshal Slessor's desk on July 18th. Slessor reads them 3 times. Then he issues an order. All Coastal Command squadrons are hereby authorized to conduct low-altitude anti-submarine attacks using the Harker method. Attack altitude, 75 feet. Depth charge fuse depth, 25 feet. Mandatory training for all crews begins immediately. The same tactics Slessor banned 14 months ago is now official doctrine. July 20th, 1943. Bay of Biscay. James flies his 6th mission in 20 days. The weather is terrible. Cloud cover at 400 feet. Visibility, 2 miles. Wind, 35 knots. Most squadrons cancel operations. James requests takeoff permission. Morrison approves. The Liberator launches at 5:30 a.m. James flies the standard patrol pattern, south along the Spanish coast, north past Brest. The microwave radar sweeps constantly. At 8:17 a.m., the operator calls out, surface contact, bearing 270, range 8 miles. James turns. He descends through the clouds. At 500 feet, he breaks through. Rain hammers the windscreen. The surface contact resolves. U-404. On the surface, the submarine is fighting another RAF aircraft, a Handley Page Halifax from No. 502 Squadron. The Halifax circles at 1,200 feet, pounded by flak from the U-boat's deck guns. James watches. U-404 has a flak-reeling quad 20mm mount on its deck. For barrels, combined rate of fire, 1,800 rounds per minute. The Halifax is taking hits. Smoking. One engine is dead. James makes a decision. He drops to 75 feet. He approaches from the stern. The U-boat crew is focused on the Halifax. They don't see the Liberator until it's 600 yards away. U-404's captain realizes too late. The submarine begins its crash dive, but it's shallow water here, only 180 feet deep. The U-boat dives at maximum rate. James releases 4 depth charges. Perfect pattern. They enter the water directly above the submarine at 65 feet depth. The explosions are catastrophic. All 4 charges detonate within 30 feet of the submarine's pressure hull. The hull ruptures in 3 places. The submarine floods instantly. It settles on the bottom. 43 crew members die. 6 survive by escaping through the conning tower hatch. They're rescued by a German minesweeper 2 hours later. James climbs away. The Halifax pilot radios. Thanks for the assist, Liberator. James replies, all in a day's work. 6 U-boats. 21 days. That, his crew says later, was the most British thing he ever said. August 1943 to May 1945. The Atlantic War. The Harker method spreads across Coastal Command. Every squadron adopts it. Kill rates triple. In July 1943, before the new tactics, Coastal Command sinks 7 U-boats. In August, they sink 16. In September, 19. In October, 26. Admiral Karl Donitz, commanding the Kriegsmarine's U-boat fleet, reviews the casualty reports. His staff shows him pattern. Every recent loss involves aircraft attacking from extremely low altitude. The submarines have no time to dive, no time to escape. On September 1st, 1943, Donitz orders all U-boats to remain submerged during daylight hours in the Bay of Biscay. The order reduces operational efficiency by 40%. Submarines must surface at night to charge batteries. But they survive. The Battle of the Atlantic turns. By May 1944, U-boat losses exceed replacement rates. By January 1945, Germany's submarine fleet is effectively defeated. Total U-boats lost in World War II, 783. Aircraft account for 245 of those kills. 78% of aircraft kills occur after July 1943. After the Harker method becomes standard, James continues flying. He makes 73 more U-boat attacks. He sinks 3 more submarines. U-764 in November 1943. U-311 in February 1944. U-680 in March 1944. His final total, 9 confirmed kills. Highest scoring pilot in RAF Coastal Command. July 8, 1944. Buckingham Palace, London. King George VI presents James with a Distinguished Service Order. The citation reads, "For outstanding courage and skill in anti-submarine operations, Flight Lieutenant Harker's innovative tactics and precise execution resulted in the destruction of 9 enemy submarines, saving countless Allied lives and merchant vessels." James stands at attention, 5 feet 6 inches tall, 141 pounds. He wears his dress uniform. The metal feels heavy. The king speaks to him briefly. They shake hands. The ceremony lasts 9 minutes. James returns to duty the next day. May 8, 1945. VE Day. The war in Europe ends. Germany surrenders. James is 23 years old. He has flown 287 operational sorties. He has logged 2,847 flight hours. He has survived. He receives his discharge on July 20th, 1945, exactly 2 years after sinking U-404. The RAF offers him a permanent commission. He declines. August 1945. Truro, Cornwall. James returns home. His mother cries. His father shakes his hand. James moves back into his old bedroom. The same bed. The same view from the window. On August 15th, he starts work at his father's hardware store. He measures wood. He mixes paint. He helps customers choose the right screws for their projects. For 27 years, James Harker sells hardware in Truro. October 1972. Truro. Thomas Harker dies. Heart failure. Age 78. James inherits the hardware store. He runs it alone. His mother helps part-time. Business is steady. Not good. Not bad. Steady. James never marries. Friends ask why. He changes the subject. In 1978, a reporter from the Western Morning News discovers James's war record. The reporter wants to write a feature story. Local hero, the man who changed anti-submarine warfare. James declines the interview. March 15, 1989. Royal Cornwall Hospital. Truro. James suffers a stroke. He's 66 years old. The doctors say it's mild. Recovery is possible. But James knows. He feels his body failing. He spends 3 weeks in hospital. His mother visits daily. She's 87 now, frail, but she reads to him. The same book she read when he was a child. On April 2nd, Ellen Harker dies in her sleep. Natural causes. Age 87. James discharges himself from hospital on April 4th. He attends his mother's funeral on April 8th. 14 people attend. Most are neighbors. None are military. June 12, 1989. Truro. James closes a hardware store. Permanently. He sells the building to a developer. The sale is quick, unremarkable. He moves to a small flat on Fairmantle Street. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchenette. Rent, £87 per month. He lives quietly. He takes walks. He reads at the library. Every 2 weeks, he cashes his RAF pension check at the post office. Amount, £127, 40 pence per month. November 3rd, 1994. Truro. James wakes at 6 a.m. He makes tea. He reads yesterday's newspaper. At 7:30, he feels pressure in his chest, then pain. Sharp, intense. He walks to the telephone, dials 999. The operator asks his emergency. Heart attack, James says. His voice is calm. The ambulance arrives in 11 minutes. Too late. James Michael Harker dies at 7:52 a.m. on November 3rd, 1994. Age, 71 years, 6 months, 21 days. Cause of death, myocardial infarction. The post-mortem discovers severe coronary artery disease. Blockage, 94%. November 8th, 1994. Kenwyn Church, Truro. 23 people attend James's funeral. No military honor guard. No RAF representatives. No journalists. The vicar reads Psalm 23. James's cousin Margaret delivers a brief eulogy. She talks about his kindness, his quiet nature, his dedication to his parents. She doesn't mention the war. She doesn't know about the U-boats. James never told her. He's buried in Kenwyn Cemetery. Section C, Plot 147. A simple headstone. It reads, James Michael Harker, 1916 to 1994. Beloved son. No military rank. No medals listed. No mention of service. 2012, the RAF Museum, London. A research historian named Dr. Catherine Phillips discovers James's war record while cataloging Coastal Command archives. She reads his mission reports. She calculates the statistics. 9 confirmed U-boat kills. 0 losses. 0 aircraft damage from his low-altitude attacks. She contacts the Harker family. Margaret provides what little she knows. She has one photograph. James in his RAF uniform. 1944. He looks young. Serious. His eyes are striking. Dr. Phillips writes an article for the Journal of Military History. Title, The Harker Method, Low-Altitude Anti-Submarine Tactics in the Battle of the Atlantic. The article is published in June 2013. It receives modest attention. A few historians cite it. No mainstream media picks it up. James remains largely forgotten. January 2026. The present day. Today, when historians discuss the Battle of the Atlantic, they focus on names like Admiral Donitz, Admiral Horton, Air Marshal Schlesser. They discuss convoys, code-breaking, long-range aircraft, escort carriers. Few mention the 5'6" hardware store clerk from Cornwall who rewrote anti-submarine tactics. The man whose calculations tripled kill rates. The man who sank 9 U-boats using a method his superiors initially banned. James Harker's grave in Kenwyn Cemetery receives no regular visitors. The RAF has no memorial dedicated to him. No ship, no aircraft, no building bears his name. He saved countless Allied lives. He shortened the Battle of the Atlantic. He changed aerial warfare. And almost no one remembers. Here's what the story of James Harker tells us about innovation, courage, and the nature of war. First, it shows that sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected places, not from senior commanders or theoretical strategists, but from junior officers willing to challenge doctrine. James wasn't a brilliant scientist. He wasn't a decorated veteran. He was a hardware store clerk with good eyesight and basic physics knowledge. But he saw a problem everyone else accepted as unsolvable, and he fixed it. Second, it demonstrates the institutional resistance to change, even during existential crises. When James first proposed his low-altitude tactic in November 1941, U-boats were sinking Allied ships at catastrophic rates. Britain faced potential starvation, yet the RAF rejected his idea, not because it was wrong, because it violated standard procedure. How many lives could have been saved if they'd listened 18 months earlier? Third, it illustrates the gap between glory and recognition. James sank 9 U-boats. He saved dozens of merchant ships. He helped turn the Battle of the Atlantic. But he died unknown. No ticker tape parades. No memoirs. No Hollywood films. He sold hammers and nails for 27 years, then died alone in a rented flat. Finally, and most importantly, it reminds us that war is won by thousands of small innovations, most of them unremembered. We remember D-Day, the Battle of Britain, the Manhattan Project. We forget the navigator who perfected a new approach pattern, the engineer who improved a fuel pump, the clerk who streamlined supply requisitions, and the flight lieutenant who figured out that 75 feet was the optimal altitude to kill submarines. James Harker never asked for recognition. He did his duty, then returned to his ordinary life. Perhaps that's the most remarkable thing about him. He possessed the courage to challenge authority, the skill to prove his method worked, and the humility to accept obscurity afterward. On July 13, 1943, at 7:42 a.m., 240 miles west of Cape Finisterre, James Harker dropped 4 depth charges from 75 feet altitude. They detonated at 25 feet depth. U-617 died in 4 seconds. That moment changed the war, and almost no one knows his name.